Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you. Seeing so many familiar faces in the room. My name's Dave Sarney. If you don't know me, I'm a special agent with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, but recently rehired, having come from working for the Congressman. Thank you, by the way. The Law Enforcement Awards for the 16th Congressional District are tremendously important. It's how I first kind of got involved in the whole process. So many good things go on every day in all of your agencies. We see it because we're out there, but the public doesn't see it. And when those good things happen, it deserves praise and recognition. And I want to thank Congressman Buchanan for having these awards to give that extra praise and recognition to the people who deserve it for what they do every day, and it never makes it in the paper. So thank you. Let us begin the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A quick programming note, as people are coming up to receive their awards, families, if you want to come up in the aisle and take a picture, by all means, feel free to do so. This is y'all's evening, so make the best of it and enjoy it. After the program is over, we ask the award winners to stick around, and we'll be doing some more pictures with the Congressman afterwards. We'd like to get everybody who is an award winner to stick around afterwards, if you would, please. So then what I will do now is I'd like to introduce to you a man who, as the expression goes, needs no introduction, but he is one of the top sheriffs in the state of Florida and certainly an outstanding leader and member of our community, and that would be Sheriff Rick Wells.
Good evening, everyone. It's so truly an honor for me to be here to introduce a man who cares and understands law enforcement, understands us. He fights each and every day to help us against incredible odds. He would be what I would call the minority in Washington, but he never lets that deter him for doing everything possible to acknowledge and to take care of the men and women in uniform. He is an absolutely incredible man. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a long time. He's a friend of my family, and he's a friend of all of us as well. And it is my honor to introduce to you Congressman Vern Buchanan. Congressman, thank you.
I always like to say that I wouldn't be in Congress if it wasn't for his dad and the Wales family, because his dad supported me in Manatee County. And many of you know that every 10 years we redistrict. Every 10 years we get redistricted. So I had to choose between Sarasota County and Manatee. We were always together. So it's tough. I'd like to keep it together, so it was a tough decision, but it really wasn't, because Manatee, without them, my first race, I won by 369 votes. And so whoever you took to the dance, the old saying is, that's who you stay with. So I'm very excited. We represent today probably about 900,000 people federally. So I'll have all of Manatee County, then all the way up to Brandon. So I'm excited about that opportunity. So I want to thank Sheriff Wells for his introduction and welcome all of you to the 12th Annual 16th District Congressional Awards, Law Enforcement Awards. I established the Congressional Law Enforcement Awards to give special recognition to law enforcement officers, departments, or units for exceptional service. And one thing myself is before I was in business for 30 years. I had close to 1,000 employees before I got in this job. And it's not always about the money. Everybody needs to be paid more ideally, but it's also about some recognition. And this is a special recognition in a sense that it'll be a part of the congressional record, and it'll be there forever for your grandkids or great-grandkids. So I think it makes it very unique and special that way. Law enforcement is a demanding profession that requires sacrifice, courage, and dedication to serve others. Every day, brave men and women put themselves in harm's way to enforce the laws of our society and protect the public safety. They deserve our gratitude and respect. They should not be defunded. Cute story. Right after the last election, one of the guys that chairs our committee, and a friend of mine, Democrat, so I was asking him, I said, well, what did you think? He said, we lost everything. We lost, almost lost the majority. And he says, you know, Vern, I used to be a mayor of a community. And he said, the dumbest thing we could ever do or come up with is defund the police. So we kind of laughed for a little bit. But there is a lot of truth to that. There's 1 million women and men sworn in terms of police and sheriff. And without them, you wouldn't have a community, frankly, the way I see it, and all you do. I believe these awards are a fitting tribute to our officers and a reminder of the important role they play in our community. In addition to receiving a certificate, you'll have your name entered into the Congressional record, which is the official record of Congress. I want to thank Dave for coordinating this event this year, and let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, David. I appreciate the law enforcement agencies that make the nominations for this year's award. So it's not something I pick out, it's a third party that does it. And I want to thank our judges, Lieutenant Paula Newman, Manatee County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant John Jensen, Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Master Detective John McDarby, Hillsborough Sheriff's Office, Thomas Brower, retired Supervisor, Special Agent, FBI, Sarasota Office, Sergeant Courtney Cruz, Bradenton Police Department. This year we are presenting, I think it's the most, 79 awards, including 5 Gary Tibbetts Career Service Awards named in the honor of my former field representative, Gary Tibbetts. Many of you knew Gary. He was a retired police sergeant who served for more than 23 years with the Manchester Police Department in New Hampshire. He then served for 10 years as my field representative in Manatee County before unfortunately dying with COVID-19. He was a true professional and a true public servant in every sense of the word. He took great pleasure in coordinating these awards and loved Manatee County. So with that, let's start our presentation. And I'll have Sally come up. Well, she's been with me from day one. I can't believe it. It's been, what, 14 years?
Almost 16.
16, oh my, but who's counting?
If we count the first campaign. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks.
Good evening. I'm Sally Shealy, Congressman Buchanan's District Director. I'm going to announce the winners as I call your names. Please come forward to receive your award. Have your photograph taken with the congressman, and then, as Dave mentioned, after the ceremony, if all of the winners could come back up front so we can get some group photos, that would be great. Detectives Kelsey Bellios and Grace King of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Detectives with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, Special Investigations Division's Tactical Unit, learned that Detective Bellios had purchased narcotics from one of 2 suspects for murder in Bradenton. Detective Bellios convinced the reluctant suspect to meet with her for another drug buy, and a plan was made to take the suspect into custody. Detectives Bellios and Grace met with the suspect and successfully purchased rock cocaine. Then members of the SWAT team moved in to take the suspect into custody. The suspect attempted to flee, ramming into 2 sheriff's office vehicles. He was removed from the vehicle and was found to be in possession of a firearm and narcotics. Considering the suspect's propensity for violence, the overwhelming possibility he would be armed, and his desperation to avoid apprehension, the 2 detectives put their lives in harm's way by meeting him to help ensure this dangerous suspect was apprehended. Sergeant Bolso is accepting the Above and Beyond the Call of Duty Awards on behalf of Detectives Bellios and King.
Let's give him a big round of applause.
Deputies Timothy Downey and Alexander Nikias of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputies Downey and Nikias were responding to possible lewd behavior at an apartment complex when they came into contact with a suspect standing outside his apartment holding a machete. The suspect was intoxicated, extremely agitated, manic, and paranoid, suffering from PSTD. He was yelling at the deputies and told them he wanted them to shoot him. The deputies were able to get the subject to lower his voice and put the machete in his room. They continued to build a rapport with the subject based on their military experiences. After an hour, they were able to take the subject into custody. Deputies Downey and Nikias are presented with the Above and the Beyond the Call of Duty Award.
Let's give him a big round of applause.
Deputy Todd Stiletto of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Stiletto responded to a call regarding a young woman who told the Centerstone Crisis Line that she wasn't going to make it through the night. While the two were talking, she ran to and climbed up a ladder alongside the balcony of her residence, stood on the ledge of the balcony, pulled a pre-tied rope from her pocket, wrapped it around her neck, tied the rope to the railing, and leaned forward as if she were going to jump. Deputy Stiletto maintained a dialogue, climbed the ladder, and convinced the young woman to hold his hand and then pulled her over the railing to safety. Deputy Stiletto is awarded with the Above and Beyond the Call of Duty Award. Lieutenant Sean Felton, Deputies Hugo Garcia, Monica Ruiz, and Logan Wilson of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded to a call for service involving heavy smoke emanating from a home with people possibly inside. Deputy Wilson kicked in the front door and was overcome by smoke. Deputies Garcia and Ruiz searched for other entry points. Lieutenant Felton went to the front door, looked inside, and saw the lower half of a man lying on the floor. The others joined him. He used a flashlight to show them the man on the floor. Deputy Wilson entered the residence and pulled him closer to the door, but couldn't breathe and had to exit. Deputy Garcia then entered the home and pulled the man outside. He was unconscious and gasping for breath. Deputies Wilson and Ruiz were attempting to revive him when the fire department and EMS arrived, treated him, and transported him to the hospital. Deputy Wilson was also treated with oxygen. Lieutenant Felton, Deputies Garcia, Ruiz, and Wilson are presented with the Above and Beyond the Call of Duty Award. Deputy Robert Wilt of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Wilt responded to a call that a woman was sitting on the ledge of the Linger Lodge Road bridge of I-75 North. Upon his arrival, he found the woman distraught and looking over the edge. He calmly spoke to her and cautiously moved towards her, but she continued to look down. With a combination of skill and impeccable timing, he lunged forward and pulled her to safety. Deputy Wilt is presented with the Above and Beyond the Call of Duty Award. Barbara Earhart of the Florida Highway Patrol. Trooper Earhart is a 38-year veteran of the Florida Highway Patrol in Manatee County and the longest current serving sworn female officer. Over the years, she's been deployed on numerous occasions to hurricanes and other natural disasters. She served as a regional instructor, oversaw and led Troop F North District Auxiliary Unit, worked as a school bus inspector, a counselor at Florida Girl State, a child seat technician, a field training officer, and an academy counselor. She's been recognized by Mothers Against Drunk Drivers on multiple occasions for DUI enforcement. Trooper Earhart is the epitome of what a trooper and Florida Highway Patrol stand for: courtesy, service, and protection. For nearly 4 decades, she's been a role model, mentor, and source of advice to dozens of young troopers. Trooper Earhart has always fought to hold those who harmed others accountable for their actions. Her selfless dedication to duty, leadership, and exceptional work ethic sets her apart. Trooper Earhart is presented with the Gary Tibbetts Career Service Award. Lieutenant Christopher Montalbano of the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Montalbano started his career on patrol in 1993 and was transferred to community policing, where he led many efforts to connect with the South County community, including cops' kid camps, bicycle rodeos, an ice skating program, and the adoption of less fortunate families during the holidays. As a detective, Montalbano spent 8 years in the Special Investigations Section, working undercover on the South County Task Force, which targeted street-level narcotic dealers. As a sergeant, he spent 3 years in the Patrol Division mentoring new deputies, 4 years assigned to the Criminal Investigations Section overseeing investigations, including several high-profile murder investigations that led to successful prosecutions. He spent the past 8 years as a lieutenant supervising the Special Investigations Section, which is responsible for all drug investigations, confidential informants, and managing all monies utilized during these investigations. He also supervises the agency's drug lab, which services requests from police departments in Sarasota, Venice, and Northport. Lieutenant Montalbano is presented with the Gary Tibbetts Career Service Award. Assistant Chief Josh Kramer of the Bradenton Police Department. Assistant Chief Kramer began his career as a patrol officer with the Bradenton Police Department in 1995. As a corporal in the Field Training Division, he helped create an observation during which plain-clothed training officers ride along with trainees in uniform, which prompts the public to direct themselves to the trainee instead of the senior officer. As sergeant, he was involved with mutual aid needs and emergency operations during the extremely busy 2004 hurricane season. As a lieutenant, he was selected as detail commander for the department's mutual aid with the Republican National Convention in Tampa. He was also a supervisor during the presidential inauguration in 2009, served as the commander of the countywide response team to assist the 2017 presidential inauguration. As a captain, he was invited to the Florida Executive Development Seminar held by the FBI. As assistant chief, he is the city's lead for the Bradenton Area River Regatta, the department's lead for the Manatee Emergency Operations Center, a member of the 12th Judicial Circuit Juvenile Justice Advisory Board, and an alternate voting member of the Manatee County Public Safety Coordinating Council. Assistant Chief Kramer is presented with the Gary Tibbetts Career Service Award. Detective James Curella of the Bradenton Police Department. Detective Curella began his service with the Bradenton Police Department in 2001, serving in the Patrol Division, Crime Scene Investigations, Criminal Investigations, the Manatee Homicide Task Force, and the Office of Professional Standards as the lead investigator in Internal Affairs. His work in 2009 on a rash of violent attacks on women earned him a letter of commendation from the Chief of Police and a letter from the victims, thanking him for his professionalism, dedication, and sensitivity. In 2010, he was recognized with another letter of commendation for solving a homicide that initially had very little information and no leads to follow. As a member of the Manatee County Homicide Unit, he has worked on over 130 homicides and has been the lead investigator on 26, resulting in 23 arrests and 22 convictions for a conviction rate of 85%. Among them was a notorious double homicide in Longboat Key that was preceded by one day with the death of a person shot in a parked car. Within days, arrests were made for both homicides. Detective Curella is presented with the Gary Tibbetts Career Service Award. Detective John Lake of the Sarasota Police Department. Detective Lake started his career at the Sarasota Police Department as a dispatcher in 1987 and became an officer in 1990. During his tenure, he has worked in the Patrol Division, Street Crimes Unit, FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, and the Narcotics Special Investigations Unit. During his career, he started the red light camera program for the city and testified in Tallahassee as an advocate for red light cameras. Transitioned the department from sedans to SUVs with state-of-the-art technology. Implemented mobile license plate readers in strategic areas around the city, which helped solve numerous crimes. Updated the narcotics unit covert surveillance and communications equipment, which increased efficiency and led to many successful prosecutions. Planned covert operations that solved numerous cases involving copper thefts, commercial trailer thefts, and commercial residential burglaries, and worked with other agencies to recover half a dozen stolen luxury vehicles. Detective Lake is presented with the Gary Tibbetts Career Service Award. Detectives Maria Gillum and Raphael Ortegon of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Detectives Gillum and Ortegon took interest in a woman addicted to opiates. Over 20 years of addiction, she had cycled through jail time, survived overdoses, and lost custody of her children. The detectives kept in touch with the woman and her family to ensure she completed treatment and had a support system. The woman is now drug-free. She has a job and a bank account. She's going through a STEP program for her addiction. She has a close relationship with her family and has been reunited with her children. The woman and her family have attributed her success in part to the detectives who never gave up on her. Their faith gave hope to the entire family. Sergeant Powell is accepting the Dedication and Professionalism Award for Detectives Gillum and Ortegon. Detective Derek Pollock of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Detective Pollock identified a suspected high-level drug dealer with an active arrest warrant. He identified the suspect's residence and obtained and executed a search warrant. He located 2 kilograms of pure fentanyl, 675 grams of methamphetamine, 167 grams of marijuana, 41 grams of ecstasy, and 3 pints of liquid codeine. He also found 5 handguns and an AK-47 rifle. 3 of the handguns had been stolen, and another had the serial numbers removed. The suspect was a convicted felon prohibited from possessing any firearms. Meanwhile, Special Investigations Division detectives apprehended the suspect exiting a Super 8 motel with a Glock 19 handgun and trafficking methamphetamine and fentanyl and marijuana. Detective Pollock is presented with the Dedication and Professionalism Award. Lieutenant Philip Waller and Sergeant Aaron Pylant of the Bradenton Police Department. Lieutenant Waller and Sergeant Pylant supervised the Bradenton Community Redevelopment Area Unit, the Traffic Unit, K-9 Unit, Community Policing Unit, and the School Resource Unit. They were instrumental in the development of the CRA unit and have mentored its officers on the importance of developing a strong working relationship with the community. They ensure the school resource officers are properly trained and keep a positive and interactive relationship with students and staff. Additionally, they have school resource officers and traffic unit officers educate students about aggressive driving, illegal drug use, and drinking and driving. They work closely with the youth in the area and recently organized a cookout at G.D. Rogers Elementary School to honor students with perfect attendance. Both are a member of several committees, boards, and organizations to better the community they serve. Lieutenant Waller and Sergeant Pylant are presented with the Dedication and Professionalism Award. Officer Chris Bennett of the Holmes Beach Police Department. Officer Bennett had 31 arrests in 2021 and took numerous dangerous criminals, drugs, and firearms off the streets, including a suspicious driver on supervised release for armed robbery and possession of marijuana and a stolen firearm. He has also performed acts of kindness. When assisting EMS in attending to an injured woman with serious bleeding, Officer Bennett cleaned blood from the kitchen floor and bedroom carpet and even started a load of laundry while keeping the victim's spirits up. Officer Bennett has made Holmes Beach a safer place to live, visit, and conduct business due to his outstanding police work and dedication to the community. Officer Bennett is presented with the Dedication and Professionalism Award. Deputies Ryan Banning and Grant Wiseman of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputies Banning and Wiseman responded to hysterical screams from a distraught family whose residence was on fire with families still inside the building. The deputies immediately contacted dispatch and proceeded to the threshold of the second-floor stairwell, which was full of smoke. They made the critical decision to withdraw from the building and began evacuating the 3 remaining residences of the quadruplex. In total, they were responsible for safely evacuating 3 adults, 6 children, and 2 small dogs before the building collapsed and windows began to explode. Deputies Banning and Wiseman are presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Deputy Michael Beers of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Beers responded to a call regarding a gunshot victim. EMS was staging, waiting for the scene to be secured. However, Deputy Beers immediately recognized that the wound was likely an arterial bleed and that the victim would likely bleed out without immediate action. He applied internal pressure on the wound, which slowed the bleeding until EMS intervened and applied a tourniquet. The victim was transported to the hospital and underwent surgery. Deputy Beers is presented with a Preservation of Life Award. Deputy Samuel Sanchez Garcia of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Garcia responded to a call and found an armed man who had intentionally overdosed. The man was unresponsive, turning blue in color, and was neither breathing nor had a pulse. Deputy Sanchez was able to safely disarm him and began CPR. The man started breathing and regained consciousness. EMS arrived and transported him to the hospital. Deputy Samuel is presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Deputies Lionel Garcia, Kyle Kesqui, Joshua Langeri, Micah Osornio of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Langeri responded to a call involving a party of over 100 people. While on the scene, several gunshots were fired from multiple directions. Deputy Langeri called for backup, maintained his composure, and assessed the scene. One victim was bleeding profusely from a severed artery after being pushed through a glass window. Deputy Langeri immediately applied pressure and a tourniquet, which was provided by Deputy Casco. Deputy Casco retrieved the medical kit and proceeded to search the scene with Deputy Garcia for additional victims. Meanwhile, Deputy Osornio applied Quick Clot to the victim's wound and wrapped it to prevent further bleeding. Deputy Garcia took over, applying pressure until the EMS arrived. The deputy's quick and precise action during a chaotic scene saved the victim's life. Deputies Garcia, Casque, Langeri, and Osornio are presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Deputy Benjamin Quick of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Quick was the first to arrive at the scene of a call regarding an unconscious person behind the wheel of a vehicle. He found the driver not breathing and without a pulse. He retrieved his AED and administered a shock to the driver, whose heart started beating again. EMS arrived and took over life-saving measures. An attending physician at Manatee Memorial Hospital Emergency later said Deputy Quick's actions saved the man's life. Deputy Quick is presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Deputy Scott Williamson of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Several detectives were eating lunch when a fellow detective suddenly tapped Detective Williamson on the shoulder and ran out of the restaurant. Detective Williamson followed and could see that the detective was in distress. Detective Williamson asked him if he was choking and needed him to do the Heimlich maneuver. His fellow detective shook his head yes. Detective Williams relied on his training and immediately performed 2 abdominal thrusts to remove the blockage from the detective's airway, allowing him to breathe again. Sergeant Powell is accepting the Preservation of Life Award on behalf of Detective Williamson. Detective Vincent Diorio of the Palmetto Police Department. Just after midnight, while on patrol, Detective Diorio saw tire tracks leading off the roadway. Believing them to be fresh, he searched and located a motorcyclist who had crashed down an embankment and come to rest hidden from view. He had been there for nearly an hour with serious injuries before he was located. The motorcyclist may have died had Detective Diorio not found him when he did. Detective Diorio is presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Officers Whitney Bentz and Timothy Diederich of the Sarasota Police Department. Officers Diederich and Bentz located a man standing outside the railing at the top of the Ringling Bridge. They talked with him and built a rapport. After 45 minutes, he climbed back over the railing and was safely taken into custody. The officer's compassion and determination most likely prevented the man from jumping off the bridge. Officers Bentz and Diederich are presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Officers Adam Bearden and Terry Crenshaw of the Sarasota Police Department. Officers Bearden and Crenshaw responded to a report of 2 gunshot victims. Upon arrival, they located a woman and an 8-year-old girl with gunshot wounds. They applied tourniquets to slow the bleeding. Shortly thereafter, paramedics arrived and transported the victims to the hospital. Doctors involved said that if the tourniquets were not used, the victims would not have survived the incident. Officers Bearden and Crenshaw are presented with the Preservation of Life Award. Officers Ridge Collins, Julius Gonzalez, Nathan Lynn, Molly Spencer, and Eric Urbane from the Sarasota Police Department. Officers Collins, Gonzalez, Lynn, Spencer, and Urbane responded in the middle of the night to a vehicle accident at the 10th Street boat ramp. Officers Urbane and Gonzalez arrived first on the scene and found the vehicle on its roof in the water. They immediately went into the water and found the driver restrained by a seatbelt with a pocket of air. They were able to lift his head above water. Officer Spencer organized the rescue effort. Officer Collins communicated with the driver, kept him calm, and held his head above the water. In the meantime, Officer Lynn ensured no other passengers were in danger. Officer Spencer reclined the driver's seat so the driver could slide out from under the seatbelt and exit the vehicle through the rear passenger door with assistance of Officers Urbane and Gonzalez. The officers brought the driver to shore where paramedics evaluated him. Officers Collins, Gonzalez, Lynn, Spencer, and Urbane are presented with a Preservation of Life Award. Detectives Byron Lake, Carmine Looper, Stephen Luke, James Parrish, Sergeants Seamus Dwyer, Stephen Ives, Brian Keelis, Theron Robinson, and Lieutenant Mark Morey of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Members of the Crimes Against Children Unit, the Internet Crimes Against Children Unit, and the Technical Services Unit participated in Operation One-Way Ticket. The operation took place over 3 months and targeted individuals downloading, possessing, and trading child exploitation material. During the operation, members of these units conducted interviews and interrogations, collected and processed countless electronic devices, and ultimately located and arrested the suspects in one day. The operation culminated with the arrest of 14 individuals for a total of 541 felony charges. The personnel involved in Operation One-Way Ticket played a valuable role in ensuring the safety and well-being of Manatee County's most vulnerable citizens. Detectives Lake, Looper, Luke, Parrish, Sergeants Dwyer, Ives, Keelis, Robinson, and Lieutenant Morey are presented with a Unit Citation Award. Sergeants Stephen Barron, Paul Bolso, and Detectives Ernest Bixell, Kelly Bellios, Keith English, Philip Fellows, Lucas Freitas Ferreira, Cody Hobbs, Grace King, Jeremy Martin, Matthew Schwartz, and Austin Scher of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office Special Investigations Division Tactical Unit. Last year, the Tactical Unit conducted more than 500 narcotics-related investigations that resulted in the seizure of more than 5,806 grams of marijuana, 216 grams of cocaine, 154 grams of fentanyl, 109 grams of methamphetamine, 35 grams of hydrocodone, 35 grams of ecstasy, 26 grams of heroin, and 5 grams of alprazolam, 3 grams of oxycodone, $10,430 cash, and 8 firearms. The investigations conducted by the Tactical Unit detectives resulted in the arrests and convictions of over 200 drug traffickers and dealers. Sergeants Barron, Bolso, and Detectives Bixell, Bellios, English Fellows, Freitas Ferreira, Hobbs, King, Martin, Schwartz, and Shearer are presented with a Unit Citation Award. Officers Sean Carter and Jonathan Muskowitz, Officers Nicholas Bernier, Brenton Beaker, Jared Chapman, Timothy Diederich, Giovanni Gonzalez, Julius Gonzalez, Nicholas Lacodera, Nathan Lynn, Aaron Mudrow, Jordan Asigna, Elise Shanley, Lauren Stevens, Eric Urbane, Becky Worthington, and Alfonso Valaro of the Sarasota Police Department. Officers responded to reports of an active shooter at 1800 Ben Franklin Drive. Upon arrival, Officers Urbane and Worthington observed 20 gunshots emanating from the condominium building. The officers entered the premises to search for the suspect. Sergeants Carter and Misowitz established 2 contact teams. Positions were held at key exits, elevators, and stairwell locations to ensure the suspect did not escape. Inner and outer perimeters were established to isolate the incident, and victims were evacuated to the command post. All officers held their positions until special response units arrived on the scene. Over 8 hours, the entire residential building was cleared. The suspect was found deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside his residence. Sergeants Carter, Misowitz, Officers Bernier, Beaker, Chapman, Dieterich, Gonzalez, Laquadera, Lynn, Mudrow, Asigna, Shanley, Stevens, Urbane, Worthington, and Varlaro are presented with a Unit Citation Award. And I apologize for any names I messed up. And now, if all the winners could come forward, and we'll take group photos, and congratulations,
Let me
everyone.
just say.
Sure.
Let me just add one thing on the awards that you got. Just a couple of things. One is, someone mentioned it'd be nice you don't get recognition in the paper or whatever. This is a different type of recognition. Very, very few people get it. It'll be a part of the congressional record, as I mentioned earlier, forever. It's special, and you're special. You just know that we got your back. And I would tell you, in Congress, most members of Congress, I know completely on our side, but many on the other side, appreciate your service, and we got your back. Thanks, and God bless.